All of these are associated with a balanced literacy approach. Now, the problem with this is now we know that none of these help kids read.
You're supposed to be able to engage with a piece of text and say, I think the intended audience is blank.
47 million Americans, or about 1 in 7, have a reading level below 5th grade and are functionally illiterate.
Teachers are sounding the alarm. Why kids can't read anymore. There's something happening in schools right now, and teachers across the country keep saying the same thing. Kids can't read. Not just a little behind. We're talking about 3rd graders struggling with basic sentences, middle schoolers avoiding reading out loud, and teachers asking, how did we get here? Today, I'm reacting to real teachers explaining what they're seeing inside their classrooms, phonics, literacy levels, and the reading foundations kids are missing. Let's get into it.
This has to be one of my biggest regrets as a kindergarten teacher. I'll never forget the time that I was sitting in the classroom. I think it was my 2nd year of teaching, and I was sitting with one of the moms who was upset and crying. Her son wasn't progressing, he wasn't moving levels, he wasn't remembering all of these sight words. And I gave her this chart. Now, this was something I was trained in, and this is something that they were really pushing in the schools. Now, the chart looked like something like this. I don't know if this looks familiar to you, but it probably does. Look at the picture, guess the word and move on. Look at the first letter. All of these are associated with a balanced literacy approach. Now, the problem with this is now we know that none of these help kids read. They are actually detrimental to their growth, leaving millions and millions of kids behind. Not just kids who are dyslexic, millions and millions of kids missing information and gaps in their reading. So back to this mom, I was sitting with her and she was in tears. What can I do? I'm so nervous that my child is not going to succeed. They are not moving levels. They are not remembering these words. And I looked at her and I said, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I knew we needed to teach kids the phonics. That I couldn't figure out why we were telling kids to look at the word and guess it. Because as the books get more complicated, that doesn't make sense. There are less pictures on the page, the words don't match up to the pictures, and sometimes those words seem a little bit complicated. And of course they're going to be complicated if you don't know the rules behind them.
Honestly, this is a big one. For years, phonics was pushed aside in favor of balanced literacy. Kids were encouraged to guess words using pictures or context instead of actually decoding them. That works until the texts get harder. Reading isn't natural like speaking. It has to be taught systematically. If kids never learn how letters and sounds actually work together, they hit a wall very quickly. If the foundation is weak in kindergarten and 1st grade, everything after that becomes survival mode. Let's look at some of the comments. My son is in 2nd grade, and because of the pandemic, he didn't get proper education for kindergarten, and now he's struggling with reading. I would also have to say, as parents, we have to educate ourselves. Not a parent yet, working on it. As future parents or parents, we have to educate ourselves in phonics and how to teach our students. I was told this by my daughter's 1st grade teacher, and I was appalled. She told me, we don't sound it out anymore. We just tell them to guess and move on. Oh, horrible.
A very interesting thing about this cultural and societal moment we're in, where we're realizing that people don't have reading comprehension skills, like very basic reading comprehension skills, is that people forget part of reading comprehension is being able to infer the intended audience of a piece of text without the author telling you directly. Did you know that you're supposed to be able to do that? You're supposed to be able to engage with a piece of text and say, I think the intended audience is blank. You are not supposed to need clarifications at the beginning of a text saying, now obviously I'm not talking about A, B, C, and D. You're supposed to be able to figure that out on your own, right? And so when you request those clarifications of saying, now make sure you say you're not talking about X, Y, and Z group, you lack reading comprehension skills. Does that make sense? Like, that's a skill you're supposed to have, and it seems like most people don't, and that goes hand in hand with reading comprehension.
Even when students can technically read the words, they don't always understand what they're reading. They struggle with things like audience or purpose, inference. That's deep comprehension, and it only develops through a lot of reading and thinking. If students aren't reading consistently, that skill just never grows. Let's see some of the comments. It says here, some commented on a cooking video. I literally can't eat this. I'm allergic. Like what? The whataboutism. It drives me crazy. I think it says a lot about someone if you make a general statement and then they say, well, what about this? And give a really limited answer that affects a small group of people. Like you would say like, many people in the Netherlands are tall. And they would immediately start by saying, well, I've seen some short people in the Netherlands. Like, no, it's a generalization, and we don't always have to contradict what someone says.
Is anyone else struggling to reconcile with the fact that there's a significant portion of Americans who are just insane?
In 2022 and 2023, the National Literacy Institute reported that 54% of U.S. adults have a literacy below 6th grade, meaning that they have a tough time reading and spelling words like flammable, institution, sympathetic, psychology. And also that 47 million Americans, or about 1 in 7, have a reading level below 5th grade and are functionally illiterate. And that 21% of them are illiterate. That's your reasoning, not that they're insane.
When you hear statistics like half of Americans read at around a 6th grade level, it sounds dramatic. But then teachers look at what's happening in classrooms and think, maybe it's not exaggerated. Literacy isn't just about books. It's about functioning in society, filling out forms, understanding contracts, evaluating information online. If literacy drops, everything becomes harder. Let's look at some of the comments. It says here, before submitting a vote, there needs to be a recapture. So you're trying to tell me, as a German, I read and understand English better than more than 50% of American adults?
Literacy rates are down because people who've never read a book are having kids. It's that simple. Yes, there's the rise of AI. Yes, there's the whole kids are using tablets in school more than they've ever used it before. But it's more than that, because reading, it starts at home, okay? I was teaching back in my day, literally last year. I was teaching 6th graders, and they had the reading level and vocabulary of like some of the 3rd graders that I was working with, okay? A lot of people have kids just to have kids because it's like one of the easiest things you can do. It's one of the few times a woman is told that someone's proud of them, okay? You can tell when some of them have never read a book in a day in their life. I've met some of these parents myself. They don't do the whole reading at home. They expect you to bring your child to school and just, hey, teach them. They're supposed to know these things. But the reading and the fundamentals of reading happen at home. Like my mother used to read to me as a child. I used to go to the library during the summer, spending time reading books. Your child not being able to spell, read, or write, a lot of that comes from never picking up a book. Think about it at birthday parties. People bring toys, video games for the kid, all these. Nobody ever brings a book when they're like, oh, happy birthday, here's a book. Nobody ever brings that. And I know you can't help the rise of like, AI and like using computers in the classroom. Because when I worked with elementary school students, they had to use it for everything. But a lot of you guys actually don't read. You don't care about reading. You've never done it yourself. I don't know why you're shocked when you're like, oh my gosh, my child's not reading. And if you're one of those people who grew up and you were like, my parents didn't read to me and I love reading, you're not who I'm talking to.
This is uncomfortable, but it matters. If reading isn't modeled at home, it becomes something that school forces kids to do. The biggest predictor of literacy is exposure and consistency. Being read to, seeing your parents read, having books around the house. You can't replace that with a Chromebook. Let's look at the comments. Not only do the parents not read, they simply don't think reading is important. My parents were immigrants who couldn't speak English and were working so much they themselves didn't read, but they heavily pushed the importance of reading and education. Very lucky to have parents like that. And that's just the beginning of the problem. Because when kids struggle with reading, something else happens. They start avoiding it completely. In the next video, we're looking at what teachers say students do when they are embarrassed about their reading ability.